First of all, I'd just like to thank my colleagues here. We've got Mr. Hanbury from the Tourism Authority, the CEO. The others I think you're familiar with, the Mayor of Hamilton, Graham Outerbridge, and my ministerial colleagues, Mr. Scott and Pat Gordon-Pamplin. Good afternoon, everyone. Late yesterday afternoon, it was noticed that grease balls had appeared on 2 South Shore beaches. As a result, parks crews visited those beaches first thing this morning to remove the grease balls. Although inclement weather is forecast this week with 20 to 30 knot winds from the east-southeast and high seas making swimming unlikely, the Department of Health wishes to advise users of these beaches that grease balls were observed washing ashore late yesterday evening. The origin of these grease balls is the Seabright outfall, approximately 1.5 kilometers upwind. The typical April seasonal weather pattern has recurred. Grease balls washed ashore almost 1 year to the day on April the 16th, 2013, in very similar meteorological conditions. The Department of Health sampled the water at a number of beaches on Monday. Results of that sampling were received earlier this afternoon and demonstrates that all of the samples were of good quality. Those results are being posted on the Ministry of Health and Environment's homepage on the government portal. Additional samples will be taken this week and results will be made available to the public. As a reminder, I committed in my last press conference to post water sample results as close to real time as possible and to alert the public if 2 consecutive samples were outside accepted standards. Since April 2013, all of the samples taken have been within the standards. As a result, no alerts have been issued. I must stress that the presence of grease balls does not necessarily mean that the water is contaminated. We have to separate the issues of grease being discharged from the Seabright outfall from any potential public health risks posed by waste discharge. At this point, I would like to give you some insights into what is being done, both short-term and long-term, to address these 2 issues. The best way to address the issue of grease being discharged from the outfall is to prevent it being introduced in the first place. The Department of Health, the Corporation of Hamilton, and the Ministry of Public Works are all taking steps to limit grease being dumped down the drain by restaurants and homeowners. Longer term, the Corporation and Public Works are working together to ensure the effective collection and disposal of fats, oils, and grease from any restaurant that ties into the corporation's outfall. In addition, Public Works is well advanced in converting from a primary treatment process to a 2-stage process. The new installation will be commissioned in the second half of the year. Monitoring of effluent discharge is being implemented to measure output from the Tynes Bay facility to the main sewer. As I said, the second issue that must be addressed is public health issues related to waste disposal. There again, short-term and longer-term solutions are being addressed. In the short term, the Corporation of Hamilton is actively investigating the introduction of an enhanced primary treatment facility which will remove all solids, fats, oils, and grease from the waste stream and provide a treatment mechanism for the elimination of human pathogens. Longer-term options for physically extending the outfall, which has been in existence for almost 100 years, are being explored. The combination of enhanced primary treatment and extension of the outfall should provide even greater assurance of our water quality. The introduction of the sewage treatment system at King Edward will serve to enhance these improvements. To summarize, all stakeholders are working together to find sustainable solutions, which include improvement of sewage waste handling at Tynes Bay Septic Facility, where investments in a new plant are being made, improved grease collection from city restaurants, the introduction of enhanced primary treatment of waste by the Corporation of Hamilton, extension of the Seabright outfall, sewage treatment at KEMH is now online, and twice-weekly monitoring of bathing water quality will continue by the Department of Health. Thank you very much.
Is there any questions from anyone?
Thank you. Extending the pipe further out may work for better dispensation, but surely when the weather conditions are the way they are, it's still going to put everything back towards the beaches.
Well, Brian, the experience we're having at the moment is that there's no waste coming back in the water. The water samples are clear, but there are these grease balls. So the key to that is getting the grease and the oils out of the discharge system.
Has the government taken any look at the option of completely restoring a brand new plant, maybe at the cost of 50 million, maybe 60 million?
There are reports going back 5 years or so which encompass all of those possibilities, which reports we are now reading carefully.
Is it beyond our capacity?
Well, we don't even have dollar figures on it yet. We're just looking at the various ways of doing it. We haven't got to the point of putting firm dollar values, and there were some dollar values on some things, but those are out of date now. So.
Minister, there is a perception that the government has mishandled this whole situation and has led to what could be said to be a PR crisis for tourism's sake. The Shadow Minister, Lane Ferber, said that he felt that the situation could have been handled. How long did you, in hindsight, would you agree that you could have done something differently?
Well, in my view, we've done more than the past government did. The things that I heard Mr. Furwood suggest, we are doing. So he suggested things like speaking with the U.S. Consul General, which we have done and which we are doing. So I didn't hear any revelations from him of things that we're not already doing.
Do you have any plans to address the issue as far as public relations? I mean, we can do stuff on the island, extend the pipe.
Well, I thought that's what we were doing here.
I'm talking about
that's not. Obviously, this is not the entirety of what we're doing, but the purpose of having these other folks with me here today, in particular CEO of the Tourism Authority, is to show that we are all working together to get the message out.
Are you aware of the report in the Washington Post last week in which 2 tourists claimed that they were made sick, they believe, by swimming here?
I'm aware of the story in the Washington Post last week.
Are you concerned by that?
I'm concerned by the story. We are attempting to address it. The instant cases they gave didn't seem to be obviously connected in any way with the water quality.
Hi there. Mr. Hanbury, thank you for coming. Would you go swimming on Great Bay right now?
I would.
You would?
Yeah.
Because I just came from there and you said there's unlikely to be swimming. And we've got some grease balls right here, as they've been called. And I had to inform a father, actually, sorry, 2 fathers, whose sons were swimming in the water, what they were. Actually, as I was walking up to them, they were examining them themselves. You mentioned in the last update that you gave us that the public would be warned as soon as these were sighted. Why wasn't there any public warning issues?
Well, I think if you go back to what I said and read it carefully, that's not quite what I said. But I said we were going to adopt an alert system. We weren't quite sure what it would comprise of, and we're alerting you as we speak. But remember, we were speaking about water quality. The water samples, which I have here, are all clear. The water samples are clear. The grease balls have appeared 14th of April?
14th of April, so that was
yesterday.
Right. At what time yesterday?
It doesn't matter. They're clear. It takes 24 hours to get a result, so the results came in today.
So surely it would make sense to be taking samples over the course of these weather patterns to make sure that you know when they're coming in and if it's coming in at all, not just one sample a day.
There's 2 separate issues here, which I've tried to explain. One is the water quality. The water quality samples for an entire year have been clear, including yesterday.
Right.
The grease balls is another thing. Testing the water will not tell you that they're grease balls. They're 2 different issues.
The report very clearly said that the grease balls are indicators of this contamination, but moving back, you said specifically next time grease balls are seen on public beaches, and I quote, "The Bermuda government will notify the public if there is another situation of this nature in the future." As this father and, sorry, these 2 fathers. And
that is what we're doing. We're alerting you now, but we pulled together the whole team on this first occasion, which took a little bit of time. So if you'll forgive us for not doing it at 8 o'clock this morning, we had to pull together the team, which we thought was the correct thing to do.
Okay, so in the future, can we expect a press conference every time this happens, or perhaps some...
Well, I'm not going to predict the future. That's not my job, predicting the future, but we'll do what's appropriate.
Um,
Mr. Stevens, just to be clear as well, the Department of Health took additional water samples at all the beaches today.
Okay, good.
So, and those results will be known tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And they'll be posted on the website as well.
Okay, great. Is there any truth to a group of a conference that was supposed to be coming down to the Hamilton Princess canceling their trip because of...
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Right.
No,
Nobody's heard about that?
No.
Right.
that's not an accurate statement.
Inaccurate.
That's an inaccurate statement.
Okay,
There are
great.
no groups that have canceled from our understanding at this point.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. One more question. Sorry, one second, please.
Is that a question for Mr. Hanbury?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Hanbury seems very under a lot of pressure. I'm curious as to what you intend to do. How do you plan to address this whole sewage issue internationally? I spoke with Ken Siegfried today. He's the gentleman quoted
Sure.
in that Post article, and said to me that he plans to come back this summer, but he thinks it'll be his last trip. And he's already told all his friends, and they have told him that they will not be coming to Bermuda because it's an environmental.
Right. Well, as a point of personal reflection, I've been under pressure before. I helped lead the economic recovery out of 9/11 in Washington, D.C., was involved in SARS and norovirus and snipers, so this is not my first time in a situation of this nature. So we've got a great group of colleagues here. I think the government is working very closely together in order to achieve some objectives here around communications. We were very unhappy with what happened with this announcement, the way it was done with the Consul General. It could have been done in a different way, but in reality, it is what it is. We have to deal with the circumstances as they are right now, and we're making a very big effort to keep the public informed, our global tourism audience informed around this issue. And there are a lot of folks that are interested in this, and we've done, I think, a very good job up to this point. Our public relations firms, literally around the globe, that are working on this to assure that the right information gets out there. At the end of the day, we have to remediate against this, and the government's well aware of that. We're taking some very significant short-term steps in order to make sure that we can assure our visitors that our beaches are safe. We also are taking long-term steps. The government is going to fix this problem in the long term. So I'm satisfied with the response the government has had up to this point, and we'll continue to work closely with them to make sure that those messages get out and that we're doing the kind of job we need to do to maintain a very important part of our economy. Okay.
Okay. That's one final question.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Sorry, Minister. You mentioned that Department of Health crews have been cleaning these up, but very clearly along South Shore right now, along Paget beaches right now, they're still there. The grease balls are still there. They're still washing up. Is there going to be any more movement in getting them?
Yes, it's a Parks Department under Public Works Ministry that are continuing to clean them up as they come along.